Hi, this is Eric from Cafe Watercolor and welcome to another quickie video, and let's just jump into it. So this painting is based on a photo that I took earlier this year at the end of the winter when I drove to work. It's just another cloudy, foggy morning with a wet road. Very typical morning scenery in the Pacific Northwest during the winter, but that also makes a beautiful subject to paint. And this will also be one of the few paintings that I actually use the masking fluid because I want a lot of big clean washes, so I don't have to paint around those tiny shapes when I paint. So as you can see, when I start my first wash, I can just paint those shapes over, and knowing that those masking fluid will do the job of preserving those tiny little highlights there. So the first wash basically just really clean wash from light to dark and then light to dark again on the ground. And then after it's dry, I start the second wash. Second wash is basically the background trees. And it's actually very fun when you start to look at it sped up because you see how the water flow and how they resolve themselves when they dry. So the huge thing of this painting is wet on wet. So the way to create this sort of depths in the misty distance is to make sure you pre-wet the area and then you put a paint into the wet area so they will spread out, the water will run, and it will just create this beautiful misty feeling. And as it get to the foreground, you start to darken them. And then when that is dry, I start to work on the foreground trees, and they are darker. And it's still one big shape. You can see that I pay quite a bit of attention on the silhouette of the tree because it's a foggy day and everything's sort of just covered by the atmosphere. But what's really important is for people to recognize what this is the silhouette. So you can see I pay quite a bit of attention on the silhouette of the tree. And just because I paint loosely doesn't mean I don't put any care into the shape of the leaf, the tree, and stuff. And I think that attention to the brushwork is what really sets some great artists apart. Those very delicate brushwork that you can tell that this artist is very experienced and they put in a lot of care into those. And those brushstroke has character into them. And I just very quickly, before all the dark paints are dry, just started to wet the surface of where the reflection will be and started dropping those dark paints to make the reflections. And as you can see, I just kind of let it go and let the watercolor do its work. And that's what always excites me when I paint watercolor, is because I can never know what the end product is going to look like. I could have an idea how it's going to look because I'm more or less familiar with the medium itself, but to predict exactly how it will look is pretty much impossible because there's a lot of factors. And that can frustrate a lot of people because a lot of people want this control over watercolor and they want it to behave exactly what they want, which is not the right medium for you if that is what you're expecting, because the strength of watercolor is this freshness and its liveliness, and that is something that you need to embrace. So let it flow, let it bleed, and let it paint itself for you. And all watercolor need is some good guidance that you provide. Dropping the headlight and the tail light with gouache while they are still wet, so it gives this soft glow and the mist, which is what you see when it's a misty, foggy day, because the light diffuses in the atmosphere. And as you can see, when I paint the left trees, I bring those values into the car in the left, because that's what brings the painting together. Now I paint the reflection of the tail light and the headlight on the ground. And I add some more misty background trees on the left because the value transition is a little bit too abrupt. So making the background tree on the left a little bit darker makes the transition a little bit more natural. So this is my second quickie video. And if you have any question about painting or just me in general, feel free to leave the comment and I will try to answer that in the next quickie video if I can. And as I mentioned in my other video, my monthly video will take a pause on August because I'm preparing my online course. But I'll still put out some quickie videos in between for you. And here's a finished painting. It's a very simple but hopefully effective misty morning painting in Pacific Northwest. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time.